The beautiful landscape of the NFL. Teams stretching coast to coast, north and south. Surely with the league spread out like this, the division is sure to resemble a similar. Are y'all okay? Some of these reaches are to regions that don't necessarily fit your given cardinal direction. How did we even get to this point?
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have a second Super Bowl title in franchise history.
And Tom Brady doesn't pass the torch quite yet to Mahomes, does he? No. Even though...
And they're going to snap it, and it's Trey Burton who throws caught. Foles, touchdown.
5. Pressure from Thomas off the edge. Eli Manning stays on his feet. Airs it out down the field. It is caught by Tyree.
Lingner waits to snap it. We wait. There's a snap. There's a kick. It is up. It is no good.
Been a long time since we've had an opportunity to have a Super Bowl game that was this tight, this late in the game. Look out.
Stanford Jennings is going to go all the way. Unless Sidney can catch him, he can't. Touchdown.
Miami has won Super Bowl VII. The final score, Miami 14 and
I think we got a heck of a shot
7.
of winning. We beat anybody in the world, and I think we're going to win next Sunday.
Yes, Namath is on the hot seat. Most of the pressure is on him. He has said that the Jets are going to win. He doesn't even predict
26-1954 is a surprisingly mild and sunny day as some 44,000 fans filed through the turnstiles of Cleveland's Municipal Stadium to witness football's World Series.
In the season, he led them to a win over the crosstown rival Cardinals and a championship victory over Washington, adding to the legacy of great Chicago running backs.
For the first decade of NFL's life, the schedule was a complete mess, with teams playing a complete random number of games. This was due to the schedules being made by the teams themselves. And for example, the 1929 season saw the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets play 19 games, while the Dayton Triangles only played in 6. This disparity was not going to fly if the league wanted to be taken seriously, and this was going to change in 1933. 3 teams would join the NFL in 1933, those being the Cincinnati Reds, Pittsburgh Pirates, and the Philadelphia Eagles. The addition of them increased the number of teams from 7 to 10, and with that, the owners decided to create Eastern and Western divisions. These first divisional alignments were geographically sorted. The Eastern Division housed the Boston Redskins, Brooklyn Dodgers, New York Giants, Philadelphia Eagles, and Pittsburgh Pirates. The Western Division would be the home of the Chicago Bears, Chicago Cardinals, Cincinnati Reds, Green Bay Packers, and Portsmouth Spartans. These divisions also allowed for easier scheduling, with a new protocol being put into place. Teams were to play 2 games against each divisional foe, 2 from another division, and plus a third from the other division via random hat draw. The 1933 season was a success, with no teams folding for the first time in league history. The 1934 season saw 2 changes to divisions. The first would be the relocation of the Portsmouth Spartans to Detroit, where they would become an alliance. The second was the Cincinnati Reds failing to withstand the full season and having to be replaced by the St. Louis Gunners for the final 3 games in the team's only season. Neither Cincinnati or St. Louis would return for the 1935 season, thus leaving the NFL with 9 teams for a few years. 1937 would proceed with 2 more changes of its own, with the Boston Redskins moving to Washington, D.C., and the arrival of the Cleveland Rams from the AFL, making a 10-team league once again, with the Rams playing in the Western Division. This would last for 3 seasons, but when the United States entered World War II, it caused some changes. The Rams would take a few years off from 1940 to 1944. The Pirates would change their name to become the Steelers in 1940 before merging with the Philadelphia Eagles in 1943 to become the Phil Pitts Eagles for a year, making the divisions Dodgers, Giants, Eagles, and Redskins in the East, and Bears, Cardinals, Lions, and Packers in the West. In 1944, we see the Rams return, the Dodgers become the Tigers, the merging of the Steelers and Cardinals for a season to become Card Pit, and the return of football in Boston with the Boston Yanks. 1945 saw the Yanks and Tigers merge for a season to just become the Yanks, while the Steelers would be their own franchise again for the first time in 2 years. 1946 would bring back the Boston Yanks while permanently terminating the Brooklyn Tigers, as the Cleveland Rams moved westward to become the Los Angeles Rams. After the 1948 season, the Yanks would fold and be replaced by the New York Bulldogs. This would be the final season with the NFL having 10 teams, as in 1950, the NFL emerged for the first time with the AAFC. The merge would also rename the divisions, with the Eastern Division becoming the American Conference and the Western Division becoming the National Conference. The merge also brought in 3 teams. The Baltimore Colts and San Francisco 49ers would join the National Conference, alongside the Bears, Lions, Packers, Rams, and the New York Bulldogs, who are now being known as the New York Yanks. The third team was the Cleveland Browns, as they would join the Cardinals, Giants, Eagles, Steelers, and Redskins in the American Conference. The 1950 season would be the last year for this version of the Baltimore Colts. 1951 would be the last season for the New York Yanks after they ceased operations. The remains would become the Dallas Texans for the 1952 season before they also would cease operations, and those remains would be given to Baltimore to become a completely new version of the Baltimore Colts. 1953 also saw the conference names be shifted once again. This time the American became Eastern and National became Western. 1960 would be the first season for a new version of the AFL, as they began operations with 8 teams making their own Eastern and Western divisions. The East had the Boston Patriots, Buffalo Bills, Houston Oilers, and the Titans of New York. The West had a new version of the Dallas Texans, Denver Broncos, Los Angeles Chargers, and Oakland Raiders. The NFL would add a team as well, with the Dallas Cowboys joining the Western Conference and the Chicago Cardinals being moved to St. Louis. 1961, we see the only change in the AFL being the Chargers moving from Los Angeles to San Diego, while the NFL moved the Cowboys to the Eastern Conference to make room for the Minnesota Vikings in the Western Conference. 1963 would see the Dallas Texans become the Kansas City Chiefs and the Titans of New York become the New York Jets, but the divisional layout would remain the same until 1966. Both the AFL and NFL would add a new team in 1966, and both would be placed in their respective Eastern Conference/division. The AFL added the Miami Dolphins, and the NFL added the Atlanta Falcons. The AFL would make no changes in 1967, but the NFL would with the arrival of the New Orleans Saints. The NFL would also split their conferences into divisions. The Eastern Conference now housed the Capital and Century divisions, with Capital being home to the Cowboys, Saints, Eagles, and Redskins. The Century would have the Browns, Giants, Steelers, and Cardinals. The Western Conference was split into Central and Coastal divisions, with the Central having the Bears, Lions, Packers, and Vikings, and the Coastal having the Falcons, Colts, Rams, and 49ers. 3 of these names had to do with geographical location in some capacity. The Capital was for teams located in the eastern United States, Central was teams in the Midwest, and Coastal had teams from each coast. The reason behind the Century Division is not certain, but it's theorized that it's because they were slowly approaching the centennial of American football, with the first game being played in November 6, 1869 at Rutgers. Either way, in 1968, things would be changed once again, with the Bengals being added to the AFL as part of the Western Conference, and the Giants moved to the Capital Division, swapping with the Saints, who moved to the Century, but that wouldn't last long with them swapping back the following season. The NFL and AFL merged, meaning the divisions would now be based off of the cardinal directions, kind of. The AFL Eastern Conference would become the AFC East, AFL Western Conference would become the AFC West, and the AFC Central would be formed. AFC East was home to the Baltimore Colts, Boston Patriots, Buffalo Bills, Miami Dolphins, and New York Jets. AFC West housed the Broncos, Chiefs, Raiders, and Chargers, and the Central had the Bengals, Browns, Oilers, and Steelers. NFL Capital would become the NFC East, NFL Central is now the NFC Central, NFL Coastal is now the NFC West, and the NFL Century was split between the AFC Central and NFC East. The NFC East would have the Cowboys, Eagles, Giants, Cardinals, and Redskins. Central would be Bears, Lions, Packers, and Vikings, and the West would be Falcons, Rams, Saints, and 49ers. The only thing that would change in 1971 is the renaming of the Boston Patriots to the New England Patriots. 2 teams would be added in 1976. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers joined as a member of the AFC West, and the Seattle Seahawks joined as a member of the NFC West. Both would be on the move the following season, with the Seahawks going to the AFC West and the Buccaneers going to the NFC Central. These would remain up until 1995, with minor changes happening in between, like the Raiders moving to Los Angeles, Colts going to Indianapolis, Cardinals going to Phoenix. But in 1995, 2 more teams would be added. The Jacksonville Jaguars joined as a member of the AFC Central. The Carolina Panthers joined as a member of the NFC West. The following season, the Cleveland Browns would deactivate, with the players and staff going to Baltimore to become the Ravens. In 1997, the Oilers would leave Houston for Tennessee and be called the Tennessee Oilers until 1999. 1999 also saw the return of the Cleveland Browns in the AFC Central. and these divisions would remain until 2002 when the Houston Texans entered the NFL. The Cardinals and Seahawks left their respective divisions to become members of the NFC West. Both Central divisions were now called the North divisions. Both South divisions were formed with the Buccaneers, Saints, Panthers, and Falcons moving to the NFC South, and the Colts, Texans, Jaguars, and Titans moving to the AFC South. And these are the divisions as we know it today. Teams have been grouped together for the majority of the runs based off of geography, but there are a few discrepancies in the mix. Like, why are the Dolphins not in the AFC South? Why are the Cowboys in the NFC East? And why did they decide to move the Colts to the AFC South instead of Miami? For all three teams, the very simple reasoning is just the history of these teams, and the Cowboys really showcase that. Since 1968, the Cowboys, Eagles, Redskins, and Giants have been grouped together, with those rivalries forged specifically during the 90s being massive cornerstone pieces into making the NFL the machine of a league it is today. Alright, so keeping them together made sense, but the Dolphins and Colts have been in the same division since the merger alongside all the other teams in the AFC East. So why make the difference there? Well, the Dolphins had the choice in 2002 to be moved to the AFC South, but then owner Wayne Huizenga decided not to. The reasoning he gave was because he wanted to maintain the rivalries the Dolphins had with their fellow former AFL teams in the Jets, Bills, and Patriots. During the 70s and early 80s, the Dolphins and Jets have had multiple good back and forth matchups, even having played in some massive games during those years. Then the arrival of Jim Kelly and Dan Marino. Dolphins versus Bills was must-see TV for over a decade, and even in that time, the Patriots threw their hat in the ring, defeating Miami in the 1985 AFC Championship game for the right to lose to Chicago Bears. And then when Drew Bledsoe arrived in New England, the Bills, Dolphins, and Patriots were all fighting in the AFC. Huizenga emphasized that it was the importance of these rivalries and the history behind them that Miami wanted to maintain during the turn of the century in order to maintain relevance as the new age of the NFL arrived. But in the process, they unknowingly set themselves up to go against one of the greatest dynasties the sports world has seen. But even within that, the Dolphins found ways to put up a fight, being the team Tom Brady lost to the most. We most likely won't be seeing the NFL realign in any way again, at least not for a long while, depending on who you ask within the NFL circles. But going through this does paint a picture of how these teams have been able to build these long and storied rivalries through the years by sticking together through the constant changing landscape of the early stages of the NFL, and even when they had to move, it sparked back up old rivalries from past alignments. With all that being said, thank you very much for watching to the end, and I'll see you all next time. Have yourselves a damn good one. Peace.